Hey everyone, it's Rob, and this week I thought it could be kind of fun to talk about a pretty hot topic today, and that's AI. And in particular, I want to make some speculations about how it will affect the music industry going forward. This is a little bit of a different type of video than I would normally make on this channel because most of the time I'm doing like pure music things, so like music theory, covers, or showcasing my own music, so actual music things. But whereas this is going to be more of just like a conversation and kind of just my guesses of to how AI is going to influence the creative type of sector. And what really makes this kind of interesting to me is so my actual career, like my actual job, is I'm a software engineer at a decently large tech company. So I use AI every day, but the way that AI is going to affect my role as a software engineer compared to like an artist or a musician is vastly different. And I'm going to kind of explain that in just a second. One other thing to make note is you might be wondering why I'm wearing a jersey. I'm going to a hockey game later, so normally I wouldn't be wearing something like this. I'm just ready to go for the hockey game later, and that's about it. But yeah, so first I kind of want to explain the difference between how AI will affect like my type of role, like my actual career role compared to artists and musicians, because I think the way that it affects them it is definitely different, and it will make a difference in how AI is going to affect those roles going forward into the future. So first of all, kind of going from my own personal experience with AI on the business side of things, as a software engineer at a decently large tech company, we are using AI every day. And what do we use AI for? We use it for like writing test cases and documentation. And honestly, we actually have some implementations that we are doing or like messing around with and testing with AI, and it's hit or miss. Sometimes it gets it pretty well, but at the end of the day, you still need engineers there to validate what the AI is doing. So even if I use AI to generate a whole test suite, I have to go through and I have to review all the things that the AI is doing because there's a lot of times that the AI gets stuff wrong or stuff isn't right. So from a software engineering role, well, yes, it will be cutting into a lot of jobs and efficiency. Like it'll be like cutting down on the amount of people that are needed. It won't completely kill software engineering. Now, it sucks, particularly for the entry level roles, because that's a lot of what the entry level roles would be doing. So, like your test cases and your basic implementations of certain things. Like, most of the time, those entry level engineers aren't doing like design work or anything like that. That stuff all still has to be done by higher level engineers. And it'll be interesting to see kind of what happens in the next decade or so, where if these companies are just completely not hiring new engineers, how do you get new engineers or like how do you get experienced engineers to like work on the team that have not done all of like the entry level stuff to kind of understand what the product is? I'm sure that'll be interesting moving forward, and that's something that companies will have to figure out because if you just aren't hiring new people or like the lower level engineers, eventually you're going to run into a problem of where the higher level engineers are either, well, let's be honest, they're dying or moving on to new companies or something like that, and you're going to be losing the experience of like the people who understand how things work and the people that need to validate what the actual AI is doing. How are you going to replace that? And that's a whole different conversation, but that's why I think it's not going to completely kill the business side of things, at least for software engineering. But I think it will affect the creative side of things a lot harsher. So, and because essentially what'll happen, particularly from a business side, is so if you have artists and musicians and or anyone that's doing creative work, marketing, stuff like that, a business will look at that and be like, "Oh, we can use Sora 2 to generate all the stuff that we need. Why would we pay someone a full-time salary when we can just create our own stuff?" And they can use their own IP because they own the IP. So, and there's a whole big thing with right now with AI being sued for IP infringement. I'm not going to get into that, but you'll have these companies that will legally be able to use their IP. They'll be able to generate music, they'll be able to generate images and videos and all kinds of marketing material that normally artists would do or musicians would create, and they'll be able to do it in a few seconds, and there won't be any need for any artists or any artists or any kind of creative thinking, because they'll just build it off of their already existing database of stuff, and then they'll just use whatever they need. So I think from a business perspective, if you're an artist or a writer or something like that, you're kind of cooked. Like, I'm not gonna lie, it's gonna suck, because, and it's also gonna suck for engineers, because there's gonna be a ton of layoffs and people losing their jobs because things will be more efficient. But at least I feel like on the creative side, it's going to actually completely replace artists and stuff like that within a business standpoint. So that'll kind of get into more of record labels. So I think in particular with record labels, I think writers or anyone who just works behind the scenes on creating music, their jobs are also going to be kind of affected a lot harsher than someone that's like playing and gigging. Because again, a lot of this stuff, if Sora can just generate it or some AI algorithm can just create something out of whim, from a business standpoint, these businesses are just gonna be like, all right, well, we don't need you anymore, And we've already seen this with businesses. Art teams have already been cut back a lot. You're seeing stuff like, or like gaming. So for instance, like the Call of Duty six finger zombie thing, I feel like we're going to be seeing a lot more of that moving forward with a lot of game companies, and it's just going to keep getting worse and worse as AI keeps getting better and better. So the issue with AI in creative aspects compared to business aspects is, from a business standpoint, it's all about efficiency, but from a creative standpoint, it's more of like a consumer focused thing. And the biggest issue is that consumers, for one, cannot normally tell when something is AI generated. So, especially now that AI is getting better, most people cannot tell the difference between an AI generated song and a non AI generated song. And that is a problem, because obviously, if people can't tell if it's AI or not, then they're not going to know. The second issue, kind of piggybacking off of that, and maybe the more important one, is I would be willing to bet that most people don't care if something is AI generated. As long as it sounds good, why does it matter whether or not it's AI generated? Like, most people don't care if art is generated by a human, or not generated, if it's created by a human or generated by AI. Like, the vast majority of people just see it as, oh, that's a cool picture, or that's a cool song, or that's something cool. So I feel like that's the other aspect as to why it'll negatively affect artists significantly more than the business sector, because most people, yeah, like they're just not going to care. So with music in particular, there's initially, on like the first few iterations of the AI stuff, you could normally tell if music had been generated by AI or not. So especially stuff with vocals, because there would be a lot of artifacting, or there'd be a lot of weird, like glitchy type of things, especially if you listen closely to like vocals, so you could hear like the very weird like pitch shifting things sometimes that would happen, and just weird stuff in general. But honestly, with the latest AI stuff, there's a lot of things where honestly I can't even tell. And I'll show a quick little video of a cover that someone made of AI of Slipknot's before I forget, and it's a soul cover, and honestly, it's crazy how good it sounds, and it's very scary to how effective it is, like, particularly with vocals. Like, I tried listening to the vocals and focusing on that to see if I could hear any of that artifacting or things that would be a dead giveaway, And honestly, I can't hear it. So let's take a look at that. All right, so let's take a listen to just a little bit of this. And it is crazy how good this actually sounds.
I'm ripped across the ditch and settled in the dirt, and I wear you like a stitch. Yeah, I'm the one who's hurt. Pay attention to your twisted little indiscretions. I've got no right to win. I'm just caught up in all the battles. Locked in clutch, pushed in place. Hold your breath. Listen, I am a world before I am a man. I was a creature before I could stand. I will remember before I forget.
So that is absolutely wild to me that it can sound that good. Particularly the vocals. Like there's a couple instances where I could kind of tell it was AI generated, just ever so slightly, but if you're not paying attention just specifically to that and you're just listening to it, you wouldn't be able to tell that this is an AI generated piece. Obviously, this is a cover of a heavy metal song, so this would be really weird to like it pretty much just by looking at it you can tell like this would be AI. But well, I mean, I guess maybe not. Maybe someone would actually make something like this. That would be super cool to see. But yeah, it is absolutely astounding how good the AI has gotten. And yeah, all the issues of the older versions of AI has definitely they're definitely ironing them out, and particularly the vocals. This is very hard to tell what is actually happening with the AI here. It sounds pretty real and pretty good. It's absolutely surprising how good that cover is. And I would argue that anyone that is making AI content that isn't clearly a cover or isn't clearly like actually AI generated, most people wouldn't be able to tell that it is AI generated. And I think that's kind of the difference between the business sector and like the software engineering side of things compared to the creative side of things, because at least on the software engineering side, yes, a lot of people will lose their jobs and a lot of efficiency will be made and a lot of like productivity will be increased because of AI, which means less jobs. But at least there still will have to be teams of engineers that have to review everything that the AI does to make sure that everything works. Whereas on the creative side, if someone just creates an AI song like this, or businesses need art, music, like art assets or anything like that, why would they pay someone, a full-time salary when they can just get something as high of quality as that cover? I mean, let's just be real here. I mean, it definitely sucks. I'm not advocating for that, but from a business standpoint, why wouldn't you? So that kind of sucks. But that leads into the last and final part of this, and that's kind of addressing the issue of, okay, with AI getting this good, will it actually kill the music industry? And in short, no. No, I don't think it will, but it will drastically change how the music industry works. At least in my opinion, I think it's going to drastically change, just like it's changing everything. Like AI is like the new revolutionary thing that's going to completely revamp the way that we all work, and honestly it's going to cut into a lot of jobs. But I don't think it'll completely kill the music industry, but it's just going to change it a lot. And I think the biggest things that are going to be affected are going to be those people that are working for, businesses, maybe record labels, or anyone that's actually doing like in the background, writing music, or actually, going through and not really performing the music, but like ghostwriting and stuff like that. I think that stuff will definitely be affected, and that would make me nervous being in those roles right now. Because again, why would a company pay someone to write something if they can just stick it in the AI? If Taylor Swift can, instead of having like her ghostwriters or work with writers, if she can just go on to Sora or Claude and be like, all right, I need a new hit single. base it off of my music, write me a new song, and then I can tweak it from there. Why? Not that I would ever think that she would do that. I don't think she's using AI in her music, but like honestly, from her perspective, you know, she could if she wanted to. She could completely get rid of any other writers that she would write with, and again, I don't think she would do that. I'm pretty sure that she likes working with people and actually having writers like writing with her and stuff. But like a lot of musicians and stuff, if they wanted to, they could, or a lot of bands, they could just throw in something into AI and be like, hey, write us a song, and we can perform it. And that kind of goes into the next part of why I don't think it'll completely kill the music industry, because people typically still want to see people perform music. So, at least for me personally, when I go to a show, and most of the time, maybe I might be biased, because I listen to a lot of rock and metal, I like to see the full band play, and I like to see everyone up there playing their instruments and stuff like that. And I would say that most people probably want to do that. Otherwise, why would you pay for a ticket? It's not like anyone's going to go and pay to watch a guy just hit a button on a computer and just have the music play as he just sits there and does nothing. And I know that a lot of people would argue like, hey, that's what electronic music is, and I don't want to get into that. But my opinion is like a lot of people, they're not just sitting up there pushing a button and letting it play like they're actually DJing. At least I would hope that most people would be doing that. Then again, I don't go to those type of shows. But most of the time it's just not some dude that's sitting up there just like pressing play and just chilling back, doing absolutely nothing. I would say that most people probably don't want to see that, and most people don't want to pay to see AI music being played just off of a computer. You're gonna still have people that want to see musicians play live, and that's the side of the industry that I don't think will die, because let's be honest, most artists anyways don't make money off of music now. They make all their music off of touring and merchandise and stuff like that, because Spotify has kind of killed music in that aspect. So I don't think music itself will die, but I think it's going to drastically change the way that music is created, and we're going to start seeing a lot more bands. Okay, not that we will. I would not be surprised if we start seeing a lot more bands that use AI to create music that they then play live, or something, or using AI to help them write music. That would not shock me, and I feel like that's probably the way that we're going. But at the end of the day, they are still performing the music, and people want to go and see that. So there's still going to be like roles like that. Anything that is just writing and creating stuff, that might be a little rough, especially so like bedroom musicians, which aren't like touring or gigging or anything like that, and you're just writing music. It's going to be very hard to break into that. So kind of like me, where at least as of right now, like as I'm writing music and stuff, it's probably going to be impossible for me to break into any sort of niche or anything like that, especially because it's already oversaturated with people. But now that you have AI like creating music, it's just a massive influx of all this music that anyone can listen to, and I feel like it's going to be very difficult for people to try to have careers without gigging, doing shows, selling merchandise, or anything like that. So that's kind of my take on whether or not it'll kill the music industry. In short, no, I don't think it's going to. The roles are definitely going to change, in my opinion. I think moving forward, AI is going to vastly change the way that the world works, and we'll see that in the next 10 years. And there's a lot of, like, you can either be for it or against it. I'm not going to get into that into this video either. That's a big political conversation. But overall, whether or not AI is going to change the world is not a discussion. It's going to. It's just how it's going to and how quickly. That's kind of where we'll see. So, kind of as a final note here, personally, it's kind of a downer that AI is going to basically like kill a bunch of like bedroom guitarists and stuff like that. I mean, but let's be honest, like most people aren't going to be listening to what I write anyways, or what most people like me write, and most people aren't going to care. But it does kind of suck. But at the end of the day, I can't, I'm not going to let AI bother me. I mean, I've been looking for people to actually play with and like starting a bands in my local city. So I think that would be fun. And who knows what'll happen there. Obviously, I'm not anticipating on anything happening. But for me, at the end of the day, it's just like a fun little thing to do. And I'm just going to keep writing music the way that I do. And I don't use AI right now to write my music. Most of the time, when I have something in mind when I'm writing, I already have the main parts in my head. So I already know what I want to play, at least like the main melodies or like the main progressions. I have it thought out, and occasionally I'll fill around that with like some more like generic, I don't know, like chords or scales or something like that. But in general, I have the idea in my mind and I know what I want to write. And I feel like an AI would not be able to generate exactly what I'm thinking. So for me, it still makes sense for me to like write out what I want to write out. And also, I think it's fun. That's what I like to do. So I'm not going to use AI to do that. Maybe something that I would use AI for is generating my, like turning my MIDI files into sheet music, if that's possible. I haven't really looked into it because I hate working with sheet music, and it's just I would rather focus on writing than writing sheet music and making sure everything's perfect. So maybe that's something that I'll try to use AI for. But yeah, at the end of the day, I don't think AI is going to completely kill musicians or anything like that. It's going to drastically change it, I would say. But yeah, that's kind of my take on it. And if you like the video, please like and subscribe, and I'll catch you guys next time.